I really enjoyed the film.
Oh, good.
That's honest.
Thank you.
I'm not BSing you.
I appreciate that.
Now,
it is divisive. It is.
Oh, for sure. What remake isn't it, right? Or reboot?
I know, and I think the people that don't like it dislike it for reasons that I can't control. Like
they have an agenda too.
We're tired of the franchise, that kind of shit.
Yeah. So my first question to you: would you have done it if James Cameron wasn't involved?
Yes, although I thought it was super important that Jim give it the stamp of approval. Like if I was a fan, that's what would give me hope initially that Jim was coming back. And I did make it a demand of David Ellison, but in my secret heart, I probably would have done it anyway because I feel like I knew. Jim didn't make me do anything that I thought was like, oh well, I think that violates the brand, or I think I understood where he was headed with the franchise, and I'm pretty good at extrapolating that.
So I read in the notes that you, Cameron, and all the writers got together to talk about like where are we taking this, right? So I love that. So how did Mexico come about? Because I know James Cameron has a really deep respect for Mexico, so I really enjoy that. So I just want to know like whose idea was it to kind of set it?
I don't know where that came from. I do know that as part of the what can we do to make this story feel more topical, more of our time, and also different than the other movies. It came about of like we always knew there's a certain part of North America that has to be part of the Terminator franchise, but we thought, it'd be interesting to have the hero come from another country this time, and even if we end up with the final battle happening in the States, we could start somewhere else. It could be someone who wasn't American.
Yeah. Well, that's what I liked about it. There was a lot of familiar elements, but there's all these new elements.
Yeah.
And it was making it sort of topical.
Right? We all thought so.
Yeah.
And just a way to inject some new ideas and new blood. And it certainly feels more like the world that we live in, especially here in California.
Yeah, for sure. Especially as a Latina here living.
Yeah. Well, but that, by the same token, I was terrified of getting that wrong because I'm not, just like I'm not a woman, there's so many issues, which was great to have Linda and Mackenzie and Natalia there to go, Tim, you're fucking that up. That's such a typical male way to think about that. Mackenzie was the best.
Love that.
Oh yeah, all the time. And it really made me very aware of, I have great respect for women. My wife is my partner in all of these things. I have a daughter who's 26, but there is so much unconscious sexism in the world that Mackenzie would always fucking call me on it. She's great, but also in doing the opening, and a big chunk of the opening of the movie in Spanish, which I do not speak, was terrifying as a director because I get so focused on the inflection of the words and the way they're said, and to not be able to control that was a real, I just have to hire good actors. And a lot of times it was great because we would rehearse the scene in English, so I kind of got the emotional rhythm right, and then they would do it in Spanish. And Natalia's so good, I just trust her to tell me, was that a good scene? Did the other actors do well? And Natalia, yeah, it was good.
Yeah, you nailed it. It was a perfect, exploration of women in Mexico. They're the bosses in Mexico. They're like the revered family figure. So it's like, yes.
Yeah, she is the family caretaker.
She was unlike Sarah Connor in the original, where she's a little meek and doesn't speak out. It's like Natalia. Danny is not like that. So
no, not at all.
That. Okay, and then of course controversial scene, Border Patrol. I kind of want to high five people, but it's a sensitive.
Was it okay?
I mean, a little bit, but I love what it's saying without saying anything. It was all the action. But I know a lot of people are calling it left wing, and I'm not going to go see this movie just because of that, which is really ridiculous. I mean, you're not supposed to have
whatever.
But
I will say that I did try, and you're right. I didn't want to make a statement of it. I'm about as left as you can get, while at the same time I don't do anything about it personally to help solve the situation. But I also didn't want to vilify the people that work there because I feel like they're people doing a job. It's the shitty system that is the problem, not them. they're doing their job. So I tried to just sort of make it a setting that felt, at least had some honesty. But, when I walked on the set the first day and you see people in cages, it's not a good thing.
That's why it was a scene. It was a good scene, but it's also it was like it brought the emotion into the story. And that crap, this is real. Even though we're watching a fictional story, this is real. But for me, it felt like, whoa.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about it. Yay, but at the same time, they're humans.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it either. But I know how I feel about it. But I know that you can't tell a story that's set in Mexico and moves across the border to the U.S. and dodge the issue, right?
Like Rambo. Okay, next one.
Like what?
The Rambo movie. And I wanted to point this out because I'm a fan since the beginning. All three films, after the original T2 and this one, they all have a similar element, which is they're always in a pickup truck and there's a big semi-tractor.
Yes.
Is that on purpose?
I don't know. I don't know about the pickup truck part, but the truck for sure.
Okay.
Because
the tractor in this case.
you have to balance the movie between fan service and what they expect and showing something new. And I feel like because I'm a fan, I kind of have a sense of what I would want to discard, what I would want to see new, and what I would want to have in some way touched upon. And the giant truck chases is just something you want to see as a Terminator fan.
Yeah, well, all three movies have a pickup. They're all in pickup
Really,
trucks.
I did not. Originally, the David Goyer's first draft had them in some kind of like souped up, jacked up truck, and I'm like, no, it should be the shittiest fucking, thing that doesn't look like it could escape, someone on a scooter, which is what's in there now.
And another controversial, not so big controversial, but John Connor. A lot of people were complaining when he was in the trailer. I don't know what they're complaining about. All the other movies were focused on John Connor. Why does everyone want another John Connor focused feature?
I completely agree. It was always Sarah Connor's story to me. I think if you really thought about it, especially if you approached it from someone who's got to tell a new story with new characters, that you kind of have to wipe the board. You have to. That story has been told in the TV series and everything else, and you can't just keep telling that same story. You have to make room for a new Messiah, and so that was really the only thing to do. And of all the people, from the novelist room at the beginning to the screenwriter's room at the end, to even Jim, nobody ever said, "Hey, this is a bad idea. People aren't going to like this," or "We should." Everybody was in complete agreement. Like, this is the way to do it. And when you think about what your choices would be if you didn't do that, you find John and the apocalypse didn't happen, and now he's an accountant. I mean, that's not satisfying in any kind of meaningful way either. So I do feel sorry for people that feel like we betrayed them, but I do feel like the DNA of the story is Linda's story, it's Sarah's story, and we have to introduce something new to the franchise, and that this was the best way to do it.
Totally agree. Now, speaking of Linda,
This will be the last question.
okay, I was reading the notes that she suggested to avoid exercising that Sarah Connor is now fat. Is that true?
No.
No?
Yeah, well, maybe.
Is she joking, or?
Maybe in jest, but she
okay.
never would. No, Linda was like, she was in it. Like, from the minute she said, yeah, she's like, okay, I need some serious training. So we got her one of the best trainers in the business, and she went at it.
Because her arms in T2 are legendary now. They're iconic.
I know.
So was it the purpose of bringing that, giving her that kind of a body, or age-appropriate body?
An age-appropriate body. And that was the whole thing about everything. I was so against any suggestion early on that we de-age her or make her look different, or just, I love the way she looks. She just looks so, she's got, a hard life written on her face, and it's beautiful. And then I think you want this character. She looks like the character she's playing, and it's just appropriate. But she wanted to be that. She never wanted to be anything other than what she is. And that goes with her physical shape. She trained really hard, but we knew she wasn't going to be, buff like she
Yeah.
in the same way that she was. That was Mackenzie's cross to bear, and she worked pretty fucking hard at it too.
Yeah, they were all badasses.
She's all badass, but Mackenzie, you know, I would get these like little progress reports from her about how she was not that she wasn't in good shape before, but there's a difference between that and the ripped. You know, everything was sort of focused.
But she
on,
didn't have an exaggerated look. She was very thin and very lean.
but
you know?
but very
But
cut.
I like the fact that people bulk up
Yeah.
for these kind of roles, and you're like, that in Genesis, somebody was bulked up. I'm like, that don't make no sense. You're in the apocalypse.
Yeah.
You don't really have weights in the apocalypse.
Yeah,
Post-apocalypse?
you sit there in the weight room in the training. Yeah. No, we just wanted her to look lean and capable. And I think she looked great too. Yeah, I didn't want it bulked up, which is why we didn't even really look at actors who in the initial casting description to the casting director, Minnie Marin, I'm like, I don't want when you read a woman super soldier from the future, I know what that probably means, and that's not what I want at all. But you do want someone who has a certain physical presence, and Mackenzie definitely has that.